Now, where is Ambassador Morin on attendee? You didn't come in with your login details? Oh, even that is on attendee. Jesus. Excellency, okay, you come in. Good. I sent your login details. Would have come in with your login details. Oh, Adadi is not on background. Oh
I'm going
my
to get the
God.
background. I'm going to get the background. Don't worry.
Okay. Good morning, Excellencies. Good afternoon. This meeting is called to order as a side event of the 2026 United Nations High-Level Political Forum. This meeting is called to order. The 2026 United Nations High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development Goal on the theme Transformative, Equitable, Innovative, and Coordinated Action for the 2030 Agenda and its SDGs, a sustainable future for all, especially for us as peace ambassadors. This event is hosted by Department of Northeastern Affairs of WOLMI-ICC, and we are obliged to review the SDG 6, SDG 7, SDG 9, SDG 11, SDG 17 in order to address the future for peace ambassadors as in line with the mission of WOMI-ICC. So the 2026 high-level political forum convened at a critical moment for the 2030 agenda. With only 4 years remaining, global progress remains uneven and many countries face intersecting crisis, conflict, climate impacts, economic instability, and widening inequalities. We at Department of Northeastern Affairs and the entire peace ambassadors, especially those mobilized through faith-based networks such as the World of Life Ministries International and the ICC and its ICC Department of Northeastern Affairs, play a vital role in advancing community resilience, social cohesion, and moral leadership. Our work aligns with the biblical mandate in Acts 9:15 in addressing the framework of peace ambassadors as choosing vessels to bear the message before nations. This side event will explore how transformative, equitable, innovative, and coordinated action can accelerate SDG achievement while strengthening peace, positive development. The 2020 high-level political forum will conduct in-depth reviews of the following sustainable development goals, which frame the focus of this side event. SDG 6, which is ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. SDG 7, ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. SDG 9, build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. SDG 11, make cities and human settlement inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. And finally, the SDG 17, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. These SDGs are directly linked to the work of peace ambassadors and World of Life International Consulting Cabinet Northeastern Affairs. SDG 6 and SDG 7 we focus on community-level advocacy, projects for equitable access to water, sanitation, and clean energy, especially in vulnerable and conflict-afflicted areas. The department also sees SDG 9 as faith-based support for resilient infrastructure and local enterprises innovation that promotes inclusive growth and social cohesion. Department of Northeastern Affairs also see the SDG 11 as engagement of peace ambassadors in making cities and human settlements safer, more inclusive, more resilient through mediation, social outreach, and urban community programs. Further still, the SDG 17, we see it as building and strengthening partnership among government, among the various departments of the Northeastern Affairs, WOLMI-ICC departments, the UN agencies, civil societies, and faith-based networks to scale transformation, coordinated SDG actions. These SDGs are central to Peace Ambassadors' mission, particularly SDG 11 and SDG 17, which emphasize human settlement inclusion, safe, resilient, sustainable, and multi-stakeholder collaboration. What is the purpose of this side event? Our event aims to highlight the role of peace ambassadors in advancing SDG implementation at community and national levels. We also showcase innovative, faith-based, and community-driven approaches to peace and sustainable development. We also promote equitable and coordinated actions that strengthen resilience and reduce vulnerabilities. This event is expected to demonstrate how WOLMI-ICC Northeastern Affairs Department operationalizes Act 915 as a development mandate along the United Nations Charter and the 2030 Development Agenda. This event is also expected to encourage or to enable building partnerships between government, UN agencies, civil societies, and all of the faith-based networks. What is our thematic focus area? We are focused one from the theme of 2026 High-Level Political Forum as released by United Nations. We are able to focus on transformative action, which is community-led peace-building initiatives, youth and women peace ambassadors as catalysts for SDG acceleration and faith-based leadership in conflict-sensitive development. We also expected to look at equitable actions, which is inclusion of marginalized groups. We looked at the widows, we looked at youth, we look at displaced persons, we look at the role of peace ambassadors across the world, addressing poverty and hunger through local empowerment and ensuring climate justice for vulnerable communities. We also look at innovative action on digital tools for peace education, faith-based climate resilient models, and new partnership framework between religious institutions and United Nations bodies. This event also looking at coordinated action to strengthening SDG 17 partnership, multi-stakeholder collaboration across government, across the various departments of WOLMI-ICC departments, faith networks, regional coordination, of which WOLMI-ICC Department of Northeastern Affairs is expected to coordinate in line with the work of the United Nations High-Level Political Forum. So what is our role as the department inspired by Act 915? The department agenda for high-level political forum side events includes and not limited to peace ambassadors mobilization across the WOLMI-ICC Northeastern regions, which is aligned within the states especially where the United Nations is headquartered. And then we also look at SDG aligned discipleship and leadership training. We also look at humanitarian outreach targeted at SDG 1 and SDG 2 communities. We also talk about the climate faith dialogue supporting the SDG 13. Justice and governance advocacy aligned with SDG 16. Partnership building with UN agencies and member states in line with SDG 17. And of course, in line with Act 915, we are aligned with choosing vessels for nation initiative. That is a mandate in advancing the HPF activities. And this leads us to operationalize Act 915 as a peace development framework. This event is expected to strengthen recognition of peace ambassadors as SDG accelerators. We also expected to get to new partnership between World of Life Ministries, International Consulting Cabinet, and the United Nations entities. We also committed to policy recommendation for integrating faith-based peace building into SDG strategies. And of course, we are looking at the Northeastern Affairs Peace Ambassadors SDG Action Platform, of which in the past 7 to 8 years, this department have volunteered to have to carry on each year of high-level political forum on voluntary ambassadors SDG reviews. And we expected that after this will compile, we have done great in trying to review the various SDGs as under review for each year of United Nations High-Level Political Forum. And we are proud to say that our department members, the various peace ambassadors in the Department of Northeastern Affairs, have done greatly in trying to assume and estray these various SDGs as released for under review each year. So we also committed the outcome to make a commitment statement from participating ambassadors. So this third event will demonstrate how transformative, equitable, innovative, and coordinated action rooted in both the SDGs and the moral mandate of Act 915 can empower peace ambassadors to advance a sustainable future and accelerate progress towards the 2030 agenda. So without wasting more time, I would like to give the floor to our chair of the GO and the visionary for World of Life Ministries International Consulting Cabinet, His Excellency, the Right Honorable Professor Philip Finn, to give his opening statement. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Pleasant, good morning and good afternoon to all the distinguished Kingdom ambassadors that we have here on this webinar today. To God be the glory. We truly want to thank God for yet another day, another time, another season. Yes, we are well aware that this is a side event of the high-level political forum, and all of us, need to be involved in what is happening in and around us. The scripture says that we should ask for the heathen for inheritance and nations for possession. And this is a time when we need to get involved. Otherwise, if we don't get involved in prayer, get involved with action plan, get involved with when is the time for us to exercise our right to vote or whatever it takes, then when things bad happen and when those who are wicked get into office or get into position of influence, then we have nobody to blame. The scripture tells us that we should pray and intercede for kings and for all men, and especially for all those that are in authority, not for their sake primarily. It says that we, the believing believers, may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all honesty and godliness. And so that is why we at WOLMI, we are interested in every aspect and in every respect. The 915 assignment was given to one apostle in the New Testament. Paul was the only apostle that was given a threefold assignment where the kingdom of God was concerned. He was assigned to bear the name of Christ. before the Jews, before the Gentiles, and before kings. Now, in particular, today, in this high level political forum, we're talking about influencing kings, influencing those that are in the seat of power based on our wisdom, our skill set, and the favor that God will grant, grant us to be like an Esther who have come to the kingdom for such a time as this, so that when we need the will of God or our favor to be done or things to happen for the body of Christ, for our sake, there should be a voice that is in the throne room, right? I just want to also take this opportunity to big up and to congratulate Professor Ada on her new appointment as Deputy Permanent Representative for the WSA. And it is, I would say, is one of my answer to prayers. You know, I pray a simple prayer 5 times a week for all my ambassadors, for all my chaplains, and for all my students, and for all the alumni, and for all those that represent us at the United Nations, and for all those who are ordained under our ministry. And the prayer goes like this: I ask God to bless them indeed, enlarge their borders and their territory. Let his supernatural hand of divine guidance, divine favor, divine protection, divine prosperity, and uncommon promotion be their portion in Jesus' name. I pray this prayer every single day, 5 times a day, for all of these groups that I mentioned. So some of you will get the blessing twice because some of you are also chaplain, you're peace ambassador, you are a UN representative. So everybody, get it. And over the last 2 days, I'm seeing I got two important results. One was Dr. Ada promotion, but then there was another one, Ambassador Kerry Nash. He became chief MBI. And so I had to ask him, I said, what is MBI? He says the equivalent of FBI for the Philippines.
Wow.
One of our ambassador is the chief security officer for the government of the Philippines. Right? That's uncommon promotion because he's an American yet, he's not a Filipino. Right? But these are the kind of things that do happen when we believe and when we are when we are prepared and when we know that we must ask for nations and we must take territories and don't be afraid, right? And so with that said, I just want to thank you all for coming and thank you all for participating. I unfortunately cannot stay too long because I have a funeral arrangement that I have to be participating in, and I have to drive like another hour and a half to get there. So if you see me, run away. And sorry about this new Zoom thing that I set up.
And this afternoon,
My wife was trying to get me to change the background, but she wasn't successful. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to do better next time because the new Zoom now, seems to have some different things from the old one. But anyhow, to God be the glory.
we
I
thank His Excellency, Right Honorable Professor Philip Finn, the General Overseer of Word of Life Ministry International Consulting Cabinet, and the President General and Chief Representative of WOLMI to the United Nations. We thank you for that opening remarks. And now we turn over to the Peace Ambassador's presentation on the 2026 High-Level Political Forum SDG Review. Ambassadors, please note that you have 8 minutes to make your representation. Once it's 8 minutes, you'll be cut off, your mic will be muted. So please try to address to your exact 8 minutes or 7 minutes so that you will not be cut off. And again, be precise in your presentation as an ambassador of United Nations in the community. God bless you. With this, I'll present the 6 SDGs. Of course, we all know that our mandate is to ensure that ambassadors help shape the high-level political forum outcome document by contributing policy recommendations such as expanding community-based watch programs on SDG 6, increasing financing for decentralized renewable energy on SDG 7, investing in youth innovation ecosystems and peace ambassadors as well on SDG 9, and strengthening urban resilience framework on SDG 11, and enhancing the multi-stakeholder coordination and mechanism on SDG 17. So this recommendation will support the work of peace ambassadors of the World of Life Ministries International Consulting Cabinet Corps for transformative and coordinated action. With this, I call on Her Excellency Ambassador Dr. Yvette Brown to do presentation SDG 6, which is ensure sustainability and ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Your Excellency, you have the floor and your times start now, 10:22 a.m.
Madam Chair, Excellencies, and honored guests. Sustainable Development Goal number 6 focuses on ensuring availability and sustainability management of water and sanitation for all. Access to safe water, sanitation, and hygiene is the most basic human need for health and well-being. According to statistics, in 2024, 2.2 billion people lacked safely managed drinking water, 3.4 billion went without safely managed sanitation, and 1.7 billion lacked basic hygiene services at home. In schools, 646 million children remain without basic hygiene services, requiring a 4-fold increase in progress to meet the 2030 target. Demand for water is rising owing to rapid population growth, urbanization, and increasing water needs from agriculture, industry, and energy sectors. Other factors that cause water scarcity and poor sanitation are the rise of global temperatures as a result of climate change, droughts, pollution, untreated water supply, with only 56% of domestic wastewater safely treated, lack of investment in infrastructure and sanitation facilities, insufficient education on hygiene, sanitation, and efficiency use of water. Without access to sustainable clean water and good sanitation services, millions of people will continue to die every year from water-related diseases such as malaria and diarrhea. According to UN report, while 90% of one particular developing country has physical access to basic water networks, only about 45% of households receive continuous, safely managed water that is free from contamination. Deficiencies in wastewater treatment, where less than 20% of the sewage is treated, pose severe public health challenges across this particular country. Despite impressive basic infrastructure coverage in this country, water rationing is common with service disruptions. Major water systems lack proper chlorination, resulting in documented E. coli, especially in poor communities. Bottled purified water is heavily used because tap water is not safe for direct consumption. Basic sanitation coverage stands around 82 to 84%, but the management of this waste is heavily inadequate. Septic tanks are widely used rather than centralized sewage networks. In spite of all these negative reports, overall, great strides have been made by some countries in order to fulfill the UN 2030 agenda. In one country, the mission to eliminate open defecation was very successful. Another had strong political financial commitment in expanding access to safe drinking water and extending sanitation networks, especially in rural communities. The question remains, what can be done to continue working to fulfill SDG number 6? Presently, there's a push to strengthen sustainability of clean water and proper sanitation towards resilience against the stress mentioned above. Therefore, Water Sanitation Hygiene WASH Foundation has formed modeling the Finnish Mondial program and has been very successful across 6 countries. This program has 4 pillars, which are communities, financiers, governments, and businesses. Its multi-stakeholder approach is used to build local sustainable systems for the construction of improved sanitation systems with resilience. This model is also aiming to create access to affordable drinking water for all by 2030. Promoting sustainable management of water and sanitation for all with a fair distribution system can have a far-reaching effect. WOLMI International Consulting Cabinet, ICC, is being guided by and is operating in accordance with the mandate and principles of fulfilling the Acts 915 assignment. WOLMI-ICC has made the 5 P's, peace, people, planet, prosperity, and partnership, the primary focus of Kingdom ambassadors and leaders. These 5 P's are tied into SDG goal number 6. The mission is to train, develop, empower, equip, and certify believers across the globe to become marketplace ministers of the gospel and change agents. To help accomplish as SDG number 6 by 2030 and beyond, WOLMI-ICC plays a major role in collaboration with partnering with varied stakeholders, academia, private and public sectors, and contribute in the following ways. Help to bring greater awareness through seminars and other public forums about SDG number 6, which encapsulates access to clean water and a healthy environment. Assist with projects aimed at improving the environment with health and wellness programs, clean water and sanitation. Leverage its credentials in offering specialized training for sustainable consumption and production of clean water for all. In Genesis chapter 26, 1 through 35, Isaac, under divine guidance, stayed in a land that was experiencing famine. God gave Isaac the solution to dig wells. This was one solution that solved a crisis. Strategic planning, collaboration, implementation, and preparation provided sustainable water to give life and ultimately help the environment. This biblical principle can be customized and implemented across the board today to help accomplish SDG number 6 goal. In conclusion, for SDG number 6 goal to succeed, all sectors of a society, through collaboration and shared vision, can establish healthy lifestyles, principles.
We thank Her Excellency Ambassador Dr. Yvette Brown for that presentation on SDG 6 and highlighting its relevance to Act 915. We call on our Ambassador Ms. Margaret Bakumo Mezin. You have the floor. You have 8 minutes. You are on the line. Can you come in? Okay. We cannot have. And then we move on to His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Kitro.
Your Excellency, Madam Chair, and the Right Reverend Dr. Finn, to all my distinguished ambassador colleagues, I am so honored to be with you to present in this high political forum this morning for WOLMI on SDG 6. I want to start with the scripture verse, and then I'll move right into my presentation.
You have 8
I
minutes.
will start with a preamble found in Matthew 25:35 through 40. Says, "For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited and you visit me." The king will reply, "I tell you the truth, whatever you did for me, did for the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me." And then we are chosen vessels for the nation, found in Acts 9:15. Peace ambassadors, how lovely are our feet. And so our want to start off by saying that water rights are human rights. Every citizen on planet should enjoy this precious commodity. And the theme of this high political forum, building our future together, and the full implementation of the 2030 agenda for sustainable development at all levels. The promise is not to leave no one behind. This promise is defining principle of the 2030 agenda for sustainable development shared by every country. The problem, SDG 6, water and sanitation, is at risk because chemicals, overuse, and poor water waste management are contaminating our waterways and our oceans. Here's a water fact check. Water covers 70% of Earth, yet less than 1% is accessible for human use. Globally, 2 billion people, or 20% of population, do not have clean drinking water. 3.6 billion people, 46%, lack access to safe sanitation. 4 billion people, two-thirds of the world population, experience this severe water scarcity. 5 billion people, or two-thirds of the world population, will face a water shortage and crisis by 2050, driven by climate change, rapid urbanization, and other factors. Health and sanitation, 80% of all illnesses in the developing world is water related, with diarrheal diseases killing over 400,000 children under 5 years of age each year. Also, food is factor in the water sanitation, for it requires 1,800 to 2,500 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of beef. Agriculture accounts for 70% of global freshwater usage. Farm uses 40% of the water supply. And the UNESCO published in the UN Water Development Report of March 23rd, 26, some of these statistics. And the conference was held in Venice, Italy. This site was ideal to host this conference as water represents its founding element. If you ever been to Venice, I've been there for this ambassador has been there for 5 times. To get around Venice, you have to travel on the water. The theme, water and gender, where water flows, equality grows. Speakers at that UNECO conference delivered a device perspective from policy, science, and field experience. The overarching factor regarding water and sanitation was women and girls bear the brunt and are affected the most. The presentation, the United Nations Sustainable Developmental Goals are a shared agenda to end poverty, fight inequality and injustice, and to protect the planet. WOLMI also shares and espouses the United Nations SDGs. WOLMI's vision, as you know, and the mission, core values, and mandates for us, the peace ambassadors, to be a chosen instrument of the kingdom of God to carry his name, message, and meet humanitarian needs of all humanity living on planet Earth. And so this has been vetted by WOLMI, where they have recruited peace ambassadors who are the chosen instruments to remedy some of these problems that we face in our society. So here's the progress. The United Nations adopted the Millennial Developmental Goals in 2000. Since 2015, these goals have been adopted and changed to Sustainable Developmental Goals. And so the new 17 SDGs encompasses a broader sustainability agenda. The United Nations held a water conference March 21st to 24th. It was a side event in New York, and delegates, stakeholders were present. And yours truly was asked to present at a side event and to participate in this official side event on food security and water for small shareholders, farmers. Here was the practice: head, the heart, and the hands model. We need to find a need and fill it, find a hurt and heal it, find a problem and solve it, find a question and answer it. This ambassador did such a thing when he traveled to Salagagana, a population of 34,898 citizens, mostly peasant farmers. Food security, farming, irrigation, and husbandry, the major challenges. The Darkar River, which is now dried up, this was in 2007 when I went, the dam or other water technology system was a factor in the health issues, the water crisis, and sanitation issues, and they depend on rainy season from May to September for farming, irrigation, and water. The solution and outcome: the Royal Ambassador's Ministry drilled a mechanized well in 2007, and they work with the community involvement where they took ownership. And I am pleased to announce that as of 2026, some 19 years later, the community is still receiving fresh water. It has put smiles on faces, community grateful for gift of life, clean water. So as a peace ambassador, we are the answers to a lot of the problems that are in these nations. And so it takes stakeholders, it takes collaboration, it takes government to be involved to solve these problems. Here's the prognosis. Innovation.
We thank Ambassador, His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Kit Rowe, for that wonderful presentation on SDG 6. And now we'll move now to the SDG 7, which has to do with ensure access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable and modern energy for all, especially for all peace ambassadors. Your Excellency, Ambassador Professor Maureen Brown Phillips, you have the floor.
Chair, Excellencies, honored guests. Sustainable Development Goal number 7
Can you
aims
sit
to
up a bit, please? Sit up a bit. We are seeing your mouth to the head.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, can you sit up a bit?
Oh, okay, maybe I could adjust this.
Exactly.
Okay, is that
correct.
better?
Much better.
Okay, good.
Now
So
your
you're
time
gonna
starts.
start now. Okay, great. Thank you. Madam Chair, Excellencies, honored guests. Sustainable Development Goal number 7 aims to ensure universal access to clean, reliable, and affordable energy by 2030. This goal commitment is key to the development of agriculture, business, communications, education, healthcare, and transportation, and serves as a critical bridge for eradicating global poverty, fueling economic development, and mitigating climate change. According to a United Nations report, the world has made considerable progress towards Goal 7. Global electricity access reached 92% in 2023, up from 84% in 2010. Meanwhile, access to clean cooking fuels and technologies rose from 64 to 74% between 2015 and 2023. Renewable energy is the fastest growing energy source today and was projected to surpass coal as the primary electricity source in 2025. Access to clean cooking has improved, but it is far from universal. The burden falls heaviest on poor households, particularly affecting women and girls who spend extensive time gathering fuel and cooking on inefficient stoves. This compromises both health, limits education opportunities, and reduces economic prospects. Ensuring universal access to affordable electricity by 2030 means investing in energy sources such as solar, wind, and thermal, expanding infrastructure and upgrading technology to provide clean energy in all developing countries is a crucial goal that can both encourage growth and help the environment. Challenges faced by developing economies include financial shortfalls, infrastructure deficits, reliance on polluting fuels, policy and market barriers. Without accelerated investments and action, 645 million people will still lack electricity access, and 1.8 billion will lack access to clean cooking in 2030. Achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals agenda requires transformative, equitable, innovative, and coordinated actions that ensure everyone has access to clean, affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy. Transformative action involves transitioning from fossil fuels to renewable energy resources such as solar, wind, and hydropower while improving energy efficiency. Active action ensures the vulnerable and underserved communities have fair access to the resources. These include orphans and widows. Achieving universal access requires urgent action, renewed political commitment, and integrated policy interventions, fresh thinking, partnership, additional funding, and accelerated efforts. How has WOLMI-ICC aligned its mission to accomplish SDG 7 goals and targets? Being guided by and operating in accordance with the mandate and principles of fulfilling Acts 915 assignment, WOLMI-ICC has made the 5 P's: peace, people, planet, prosperity, and partnership the primary focus of its ambassadors. These 5 P's are tied into SDG number 7, which provide a framework for achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. ICC leverages strategic partnerships with multi-sectoral stakeholders, which include civil societies, academia, public and private sectors, faith-based organizations, departments, United Nations bodies, national and national, to support local engagement. ICC provides education, brings awareness, and conducts diplomatic training for peace ambassadors to support communities worldwide. WOLMI's peace ambassadors are included as valued partners in implementing the goals and help raise awareness. As peace ambassadors, we believe that God calls us to be faithful stewards of his creation, as commissioned in Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 to 28, and chapter 2, verse 15, and to serve our neighbors with compassion, justice, and love. Advancing SDG 7 is one way we put these values in action by ensuring that all people within our different spheres of influence have access to the energy they need to live healthy, productive, and dignified lives. Transformative action involves embracing sustainable energy solutions that protect God's creation while improving the well-being of communities. Innovative action encourages us to use the gifts of wisdom, creativity, and technology that God has entrusted to humanity to develop clean and sustainable energy solutions. As peace ambassadors, we're on a divine assignment to promote positive peace within our different spheres of influence. Our action reflects God's concern for the poor and marginalized by ensuring that no one is left behind, especially in underserved and rural areas which lack access to renewable energy. Conflict routinely destroys decades of infrastructure, economic gains, and educational progress. Peace prevents these systemic collapses. Climate change alters water and agricultural patterns. As positive peace ambassadors, we provide peaceful mediation channels, preventing resource capacity from escalating into violence through education and community engagement. Action reminds us that lasting changes are achieved through partnership, service, and transformation, bringing practical solutions alongside the message of the gospel by promoting sustainable development and supporting access to affordable and clean energy. We demonstrate God's love through action and contribute to a more peaceable and sustainable world. WOLMI-ICC's contribution to SDG 7 agenda achievement is progressive. Conclusion: lasting changes are achieved through collaboration and shared partnership. Together, these actions will accelerate progress toward SDG 7 and the broader sustainable development goals, creating a future that is more inclusive, resilient, and environmentally sustainable. By working collectively, the global community can ensure that clean energy becomes a foundation for prosperity, social equity, and a healthy planet for present and future generations, and no one will be left behind.
We thank Her Excellency Ambassador Dr. Maureen Brown-Phillips for that wonderful presentation on SDG 7. Going back to SDG 6, we have Ambassador Margaret Bakumo-Mezin to make her presentation on SDG 6. You have the floor, Ambassador.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Excellencies. It is both a privilege and an honor to speak before you today to address the global need to ensure the availability and sustainable management of clean water and sanitation for all by 2030. Water lies at the very foundation of life on our planet. It sustains our bodies, our communities, and our economies. Yet today, access to clean water, safe sanitation, and proper hygiene remain one of the most pressing challenges of our time. According to the most recent estimates from the World Health Organization, UNICEF, 2.1 billion people worldwide still lack access to safely managed drinking water, including 106 million who rely on untreated surface water for daily survival. Some 3.4 billion people lack safely managed sanitation, and 1.7 billion still lack basic services at home. These numbers represent a quarter of nearly half of humanity living without service that many of us take for granted. The United Nations has recognized this challenge through Sustainable Development Goal 6, which calls on the global community to ensure water and sanitation for all. The significance of SDG 6 extends well beyond water alone. Reliable access to clean water helps lift communities out of poverty and spares countless, and spare countless women and children from long and often unsafe journeys to collect waters for their family. In many parts of the world, it is women and girls who carry this burden, spending significant portion of each day fetching water rather than attending schools, earning an income, or caring for their families. Water is the foundation of every community. It nourishes our body, supports our health, strengthens our economies, and sustains life itself, thereby providing the conditions for prosperity. In many regions, rivers have been polluted by pollution, poor waste management, and inadequate sanitation infrastructures. Yet these same rivers remain the primary water source for countless families, used for cooking, bathing, washing clothes, and in many cases, drinking. For many women and children, the day begins before dawn with a long walk to collect water that may still pose serious health risks. While each community's circumstances are unique, these challenges is shared by millions around the world, and the aspiration of clean water is universal. The human economic toll of this crisis is significant. Improving access to water, sanitation, and hygiene could save an estimated 1.4 million lives every year, including preventing the death of roughly 1,000 children under the age of 5 each day. The economic case is equally compelling. A landmark World Health Organization study found that every dollar invested in improved sanitation yields an average return of $5.50 in economic benefits. Addressing the global water crisis, therefore, requires sustained investment in both infrastructures and people, investment that help prevent conflicts over scarce resources and promotes regional and global peace and stability. Clean water alone is not sufficient. Safe sanitation and good personal hygiene are equally essential. And these three pillars are inseparable. Access to clean water is about protecting human life, preserving dignity, and creating opportunities for individuals to strive. As WOLMI ambassadors of this cause, we owe both the opportunity and the responsibility to help build that future. We have the ability to educate, advocate, and inspire change within our communities by working in partners with schools, community organizations, local leaders, and civil society. Together, we can promote proper sanitation, regular hand washing, environmental stewardship, and healthy hygiene practices that prevent diseases and save lives. Education is one of the most effective tools at our disposal. When people understand how sanitation and hygiene protect health, they are empowered to protect themselves and future generations. Education must be matched by action. WOLMI-ICC has been an essential pillar in this fight, so we must continue to strengthen partnership among governments, international organizations, the private sector, and local communities. Together, we can invest in sustainable water system, safe sanitation facility, water purification technologies, and the long-term maintenance these resources require. When we invest in clean water, we invest in healthier families and greater prosperity. When we invest in sanitation, we invest in stronger, more resilient community. When we invest in hygiene education, we invest in a future where preventable disease is no longer limits human potentials, protecting both people and the planet. Achieving Sustainable Development Goal 6 is a shared responsibility that calls for collaboration, innovation, and unwavering commitment from all of us. As Acts 9:5 reminds us, we are called to say, I invite each of us as well at WOLMI to continue championing policies that expand access to clean water. Let us invest in sanitation systems that protect both people and the environment. Let us educate communities so that healthy hygiene practices become lifelong habits. And let us reaffirm that access to clean water is a fundamental human right belonging to every person on this planet. Together, through partnership, education, and sustained investment, WOLMI-ICC can keep the momentum in building a world where every person, regardless of where they are born, has access to clean water, safe sanitation, and the opportunity to live a healthy, dignified life. A world where no one is left behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for that presentation on SDG 6. We now turn over to SDG 9, build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. Your Excellency, Dr. Lauren Kobokile, all the way from Botswana. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excellencies, honored guests. It is indeed an honor to address this high-level political forum for the review of the Sustainable Development Goal 9. Inspired by Acts 9:15, WOLMI believes every institution and community can become an instrument of transformation by advancing resilient infrastructure, inclusive industrialization, and innovation that leave no one behind. According to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals report in 2025, global manufacturing value added per capita increased by 17.3% between 2015 and 2024. Fifth generation mobile broadband now reaches approximately 51% of the world's population, while global maritime freight reached 11.6 billion metric tons in 2023. These encouraging achievements also remind us that major infrastructure, financing, and digital access gaps remain, particularly for developing countries. For Botswana, SDG 9 is closely linked to economic diversification, digital transformation, decent work, youth empowerment, and Vision 2016. Development must therefore strengthen both physical infrastructure and human capacity to benefit from it. Through the 5 Ps, the framework, WOLMI contributes by people first, through promoting psychosocial well-being, developing its people, through leadership, youth empowerment, and support of orphan and vulnerable children and families. For the planet, we encourage environmental stewardship and responsible leadership. For prosperity, we strengthen and promote leadership resilience, entrepreneurship, readiness, and community capacity. For peace, we promote healing and reconciliation, family resilience, and social cohesion. For partnership, we know that this work cannot be done alone by government, so we partner with them, other faith communities, academia, civil society, mental health professionals, and development partners to translate global communities into practical local action. We respectfully recommend recognizing faith-based organizations as strategic SDG implementation partners, investing equally in physical and social infrastructure, expanding digital inclusion, supporting women and youth-led innovation, strengthening local implementation, and building partnerships and accelerating achievement of the 2030 agenda. Act 9:15 reminds us that we are called to be instruments of hope and transformation. May our infrastructure connect communities, our innovation expand opportunities, our industrialization protect our planet, and our partnerships strengthen peace. As a peace ambassador, I reaffirm WOLMI's commitment in advancing Sustainable Development Goal number 9. If we want to achieve SDG 9, we must move beyond a narrow view of industrialization and infrastructure. We must recognize that roads, digital systems, and industrial policy are indispensable, but they are not sufficient on their own. Sustainable progress also depends on mental resilience, social cohesion, local trust, gender inclusion, youth opportunities, and institutions that are close enough to communities to understand their daily realities. In this regard, I respectfully offer 5 recommendations to this high-level political forum. First, faith-based and community-based organizations should be recognized more intentionally as implementation partners in this SDG process, particularly where they contribute to social resilience, local service delivery, and community trust. Second, investment in infrastructure should be complemented by investment in social infrastructure, including psychosocial support systems, family strengthening, women's empowerment platforms, and safe community spaces. Thirdly, governments and development partners should support grassroots innovation by women, youth, and local organizations whose solutions are shaped by real lived realities. Fourth, partnerships across public institutions, civil society and academia, faith communities, and private sector should be strengthened so that innovation ecosystems become more inclusive. Fifth, monitoring of SDG 9 progress should include attention to who is being reached, who remains excluded, and whether development systems are truly enabling dignity and participation at community level. I thank you.
We thank Her Excellency Dr. Lauren Kobukile for that presentation. We now turn over to Her Excellency Dr. Diane Kinole. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, peace ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. It is an honor to be representing Word of Life Ministries, International Consulting Cabinet, the Department of Northeastern Affairs, and the Peace Ambassadors Corps at the United Nations High-Level Political Forum today. And I want to begin not with a statistic, but with a road. Somewhere tonight, there is a child who cannot get to school because the road between their village and the classroom washes out every rainy season. There is a woman with a small workshop who cannot grow it because no bank will lend her $300. There is a young engineer with a brilliant idea and no laboratory, no broadband, no way to be heard. Sustainable Development Goal number 9 is not an abstraction to them. It is the difference between a life that opens up and a life that stays closed. Now, let us be plain with you about where we stand because you deserve candor, not comfort. This week, the United Nations released the Sustainable Development Goals Report 2026. Of the 139 targets we can actually measure, only about 1 in 7 is on track. Nearly half are barely moving, and roughly 1 in 7 has gone backwards, worse today than in 2015. On Tuesday, the UN also named the number we all have been avoiding, a $4 trillion shortfall every single year. And it is getting harder, not easier. Development aid fell by nearly a quarter last year alone. That is the honest ledger. Less than 4 years to 2030, and the math does not add up on its own. But here's what we refuse to do, and we hope you will refuse to do with us. We will not stand here and pretend nothing is working, because plenty is. Look at what industry has done. Since 2015, manufacturing output per person is up 18% worldwide, and in the least developed nations, it has jumped 42%. From a small base, yes, but that is the fastest climb of anyone in this room. Ships now carry a record 24 billion tons of the world's goods across the oceans, and more than half of that trade now flows through developing economies. The very countries we were told a generation ago would only ever sell raw materials. And the phone in your pocket, 5G already reaches 55% of humanity. Mobile networks reach 96%. When we decide to build, we build fast. So the problem is not capability. The problem is who we build for. And this is where the theme of this forum stops being a slogan and starts being a test. Equitable. Say it plainly. The world is pouring money into innovation, but almost none of it lands where it is needed most. 73% of countries still spend less than 1% of their economy on research. In sub-Saharan Africa, it is barely a third of 1%. 5G covers half the planet, but in the least developed countries, only 4 people in 100 can touch it. We're not short of technology. We are short of the will to share it. And that is a choice, which means it can be a different choice. So let us tell you what our organization and will begin doing. Not in 10 years, but starting now. We will put our weight behind the small enterprise and the least developed countries, because that is where a dollar of finance or a week of training changes the most lives. We will fight the digital divide as if it were the literacy crisis of our time, because it is. To be offline in 2026 is to be unheard, and we will keep showing up at the financing table, working to close that $4 trillion gap through partnership, not retreat, because walking away has never once fed a child or lit up a home. We carry a mandate older than any of these reports, to be a chosen vessel before nations, in service to nations, to leaders, and to the people who too often go unseen. That is not ceremony to us. It is the meaningful work we choose to do. We believe infrastructure is not merely concrete and cable, it is covenant. It is a promise a nation makes to its people that no village will be left in the dark, that no young innovator will be denied a market, that no woman with a vision will be denied credit. Excellencies, in 2030, the world will not ask whether our reports were eloquent. It will ask whether a child in a remote community can now cross an all-season road to school, whether a woman can power a small workshop and reach a global market, whether the innovations of this decade lifted the last mile or merely enriched the first. If we can answer yes, then every road we paved and every network we built will have been worth it. If we cannot, no amount of eloquence in this forum will cover it. The foundation is already laid. What we put on top of it now, that is on us. Let us build like people who mean it. Thank you.
We thank Her Excellency Ambassador Diane Kinoli for this presentation, and will now move over. I cannot see Ambassador Angela Gracie in the room on SDG 11, Ambassador Gloria Wode in the room, and now we move down to SDG 11, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Ambassador, Her Excellency Ambassador Kaleta Lamonaco, you have the floor.
Building cities that leave no one behind. If you were born tonight in a slum on outskirts of Lagos, Manila, or Port-au-Prince with no title deed to the ground beneath you, no paved road to a clinic, no street light to walk home by, how many years will it take for the world's promises to reach your doorstep? That question is not rhetorical. It is a question that more than 1.1 billion people are living with right now. And that question is at the heart of Sustainable Development Goal 11. Today, I want to take you through the state of SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, using the same lens the international community uses when it reviews its own progress. Who is still left behind and why? And I will close with what this means for WOLMI's own mandate, peace, education, and the elimination of poverty. Excellencies, ambassadors, and distinguished guests of WOLMI International. For 11 years, this organization has stood at the intersection of diplomacy and dignity, assisting the UN with its mandates to keep peace, education, keep the peace, educate the vulnerable, and lift the poor. There is no goal in a 2030 agenda that tests this mandate more directly than Goal 11, because the city is where peace, poverty, and education either converge into opportunity or collide in crisis. SDG 11 does not stand alone. It was born into a family of agreements, all sealed in the same extraordinary year, 2015, each one reinforcing the other. Together, these four instruments form the architecture within Goal 11, must be understood not as a standalone urban planning exercise, but as a meeting point of financing, climate resilience, disaster preparedness, and human development. So allow me to begin with a simple but profound question. If a child was born today in an informal settlement on the edge of one of the world's fastest growing cities, how many years will it take before the promises of the Sustainable Development Goals to reach that child? The question is not simply about housing, it's about justice. It's about opportunity, and ultimately it's about whether our collective commitments are reaching the people they were intended to serve. To envision a world where prosperity is shared and equality is reduced and no one is left behind. The Addis Ababa Action Agenda reminds us that sustainable development must be financed with ambition and accountability. The Paris Agreement calls us to confront the realities of climate change, while the Sendai Framework reminds us that resilience must be built before disaster strikes and not afterwards. These landmark agreements are not separate commitments. Together, they form the foundation for SDG 11. Make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. The true measure of the Sustainable Development Goals is not the elegance of their language, but the evidence of the implementation. Their success is not determined in conference halls, but in neighborhoods, municipalities, and communities where people experience dignity, opportunity, and security every day. There has been encouraging progress. More than 150 countries have developed national urban policies, and many are now moving from planning to implementation. Increasing numbers of governments are measuring investments in cultural and natural heritage, recognizing that sustainable cities must preserve not only infrastructure, but their identity. Yet policy on paper is not policy in practice. VNRs should be more than reports submitted to the UN. They should be living instruments that shape legislation, inform municipal budgets, engage local authorities, and invite minimal participation from civil society. A national framework that cannot withstand the realities of local implementation remains an aspiration, not yet an achievement. Sustainable urbanization also requires us to reject the false choice between economic prosperity and social inclusion and environmental stewardship. These are not competing priorities. They are mutually reinforcing pillars of resilient societies, where one pillar weakens, the entire structure becomes vulnerable. Yet the strongest example of progress demonstrate integrated governance, where housing, transportation, land use, climate resilience, and economic development are planned together rather than managed in isolation. Cities thrive when governments work across sectors. They are struggled when institutions work in silos. So this brings us to defining the promise of 2030 agenda, leaving no one behind. Today, more than 1 billion people continue to live in informal settlements without adequate services, while billions more struggle to secure affordable housing. Since the adoption of the Sendai Framework, the number of countries implementing local disaster risk reduction strategies has grown substantially, demonstrating what is possible when national governments, local authorities, and communities actually work together. The lesson is consistent. Integrated institutions produce integrated solutions. Fragmented institutions produce fragmented outcomes. These realities remind us that implementation, not aspiration, must define this decade. This leads us to perhaps our greatest challenge, which is financing. But finance is not merely an economic decision, it is a statement of priorities. Every budget reflects our values, every investment shapes our future, and every dollar invested in resilience today prevents far greater human and economic crisis for tomorrow. So WOLMI International proudly supports the United Nations in advancing peace, expanding education opportunity, and reducing poverty. SDG 11 demonstrates that these objectives are deeply interconnected. A resilient city strengthens peace, an inclusive city expands opportunity, a sustainable city protects future generations. And so, my brothers and my sisters, I'm going to return to my opening question. If a child were born today in an informal settlement, how long should that child wait before the promises we have made in this room? And before I close, allow me to share a personal reflection. Acts 9:15 reminds us that we are all called to be instruments before nations and their leaders, whether one draws from strength, from faith, conscience, or commitment to human dignity. The principle is the same. Leadership carries a sacred responsibility to serve others. Today, each of us represented in this distinguished gathering has been entrusted with that responsibility, not merely to.
We thank Her Excellency Ambassador Kaleta Cole for that presentation on SDG 11. And we now move on to the SDG 17, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. We have called on Her Excellency Ambassador Princess Julie Inka. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, partners in development. It is an honor to present this review on Sustainable Development Goal 17 during this reflection on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. We are established as a universal call to action and poverty to protect planet, advance peace, and ensure prosperity for all people for the year 2030. And here we are, 4 years to the time, we are still struggling with this. At the center of this collective vision stands SDG 17, which is Partnership for the Goal, which serve as the operation and collaborative foundation upon which all the SDGs depends. The High-Level Political Forum, HLP, recognized the SDG as integral, indivisible, interlinked, and globally interconnected. SDG 17 is not isolated from the other goals. Rather, it is the mechanism that enables the success of all sustainable development. And what we are speaking on the fact that WOLMI has a part to play in this. So we are going to be talking about the reflection of WOLMI on SDG 17. SDG 17 focuses on strengthening the means of implementation and partnership for sustainable development. The goal is built on understanding that sustainable development succeeds through unity and collective responsibility. If you look at Genesis 11 on the building of the Tower of Babel, that will give you a little understanding on that. Reflection on the work of the United Nations. We'll start with that. The United Nations had played a significant role in advancing SDG through global advocacy. The United Nations continues to raise awareness on sustainable development, which is still going on the on the high level political level, which is going on right now. And the Commission on the Status of Women, the General Assembly, Humanitarian and Peace Building Forums, Climate and Development Partnership. Humanitarian partnership, the UN collaborates with the government, NGOs, faith-based organization, women-led organization, youth networks, and community advocates. Capacity building, promotion of peace and inclusion, challenges face SDGs. What are the challenges that faces SDG 17 globally? Number one is, despite progress in SDG 17, which has to do with partnership and collaboration, which actually WOLMI-ICC is 100% engaged in, is funding gap, political instabilities, war and conflict, economic inequality, weak institutional structures, limited grassroots implementation, poor collaborations between sectors. This reveals the urgent need for stronger partnership and rooted in integrity, compassion and accountability and service. These are the challenges that goes on that SDG 17 is facing. What are the impacts of SDG 17 on the mission and purpose of WOLMI-ICCI? WOLMI-ICCI exists as a transformational and kingdom-centered ministry committed to spiritual empowerment, leadership development, women and youth empowerment, humanitarian outreaches, mentorship, peace advocacy, global impact. The mission aligns strongly with SDG 17 because ministry effectiveness increases through strategic collaboration and kingdom partnership. What are the areas that ICCI and WOLMI makes impact? Number one, kingdom partnership and collaboration. And we have seen it, there's a lot of programs that we partner with other organizations, like in different parts of the world, like Africa, the recent event that happened in Nigeria on the 20th of June of this June and the 27th of June in New York. WOLMI-ICCI collaborates with churches, community leaders, women organizations, international forums, peace initiative, mentorship platform, and reflect the spirit of SDG 17. Women empowerment, the ministry outreach of women and vulnerable population contributes to gender inclusion, leadership participation, economic empowerment, social transformation. Global mentorship and advocacy. Through mentorship and assemblies and international agents engagement, WOLMI-ICCI build bridges across nations, cultures, and ministries. What are the reflections on Act 9:15 and the Peace Ambassador's mandate? The mandate of Act 9:17 is, he is a chosen generation. You are a chosen generation. I am a chosen vessel to bear the name of the Lord Jesus Christ to Gentiles, to many nations, and to kings, and to the children of Israel, where we start from. The scripture revealed divine commissioning, global assignments, cross-cultural ministry, leadership influence, and kingdom diplomacy. The mandate emphasizes that believers are called not only to preach, but also to influence nation systems and communities. Reflection on peace ambassadors, which is based on Matthew chapter 5, verse 9, which says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God." We promote reconciliation, build bridges, encourage dialogue, and defend justice. We restore hope and advance peace existence. Ministry and diplomacy. Act 9:15 mandate aligns with diplomatic and transformational leadership through advocacy, like I've said earlier, for vulnerable and internationally we are representatives. Faith-based diplomacy, community engagement, and peace building initiative. The ministry therefore becomes both spiritual and...
We thank Her Excellency Ambassador Princess Inka for that wonderful presentation. And we have the last presenter on this SDGs, our Excellency Ambassador Dr. Akwasi Amankwa. You have the floor.
Mr. President of WOLMI-ICC, Madam Chair, distinguished representatives of the United Nations, leaders of WOLMI-ICC Northeastern Affairs, esteemed peace ambassadors, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored deeply to address the distinguished gathering at the United Nations headquarters in New York City under the auspices of WOLMI-ICC Northeastern Affairs at a moment of profound significance in global history. As we approach the 81st section of the United Nations General Assembly, the world stands at a crossroad. SDG 17 is not merely a ceremonial milestone, it is a moral, political, and institutional turning point, a moment that compels us to consider whether the multilateral system created 8 decades ago can adapt to the realities of today and the uncertainties of tomorrow. Why a paradigm shift is necessary. The United Nations was founded to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war. Yet, today, conflict, climate stress, inequality, displacement, and rights violations are increasing rather than receding. The lesson is clear. Business as usual is no longer sufficient. The paradigm shift envisioned by SDG 17 calls for moving from reaction to prevention, from institutional silos to integrated action, from exclusive diplomacy to inclusive multilateralism, from short-term crisis management to long-term sustainability. This is not a rejection of multilateralism. It is a renewal. Multilateralism and peace and security. Peace and security remain the first pillar of the United Nations Charter. Yet, peace today must be understood not only in military terms, but a human security, the protection of lives, dignity, livelihoods, and hope. The SDG 17 paradigm shift emphasizes prevent, diplomacy, and early warning, addressing the root cause of conflicts, including poverty, exclusion, climate shocks, and governance failures. Meaningful inclusion of women and youth in peace processes. Interfaith and intercultural dialogue as a tool for reconciliation. Peace ambassadors play a critical role here. You are not, and we are not messengers of harmony. You are agents of prevention, capable of identifying tensions before they escalate and building trusts where institutions alone cannot reach. Its purpose is to strengthen global partnership to achieve all the 17 sustainable developmental goals through cooperation among governments, business, civil society, academia, international organizations. Some important SDG 17 topics include financing sustainable development, technology transfer and innovation, capacity building for developing countries, fair international trade, data monitoring and accountability, multi-stakeholder partnership, public-private partnership, global cooperation in health, education, climate change, action and poverty reduction, knowledge sharing and international collaboration, mobilizing resources to achieve SDGs by the 2030. As I continue, we zoom to multilateralism and sustainable development. Sustainable development is the second pillar of the United Nations and the foundation of durable peace. The 2030 Agenda and the SDGs represent humanity's most ambitious collective promise. Yet, progress is uneven and in many regions reversing. SDG 17 calls for a paradigm shift that integrates development with peace building and human rights, prioritizes health, education, food security, water, and climate resilience, mobilizes science, technology, and innovation responsibly, ensures equitable financing and support for developing countries. Development divorced from justice and inclusion cannot last. True development empowers people, strengthens institutions, and restores dignity among people. Excellencies, human rights form the moral foundation of United Nations. The paradigm shift of SDG 17 reframes human rights out as not an afterthought, but as a human right, preventive tools against conflict, enablers of trust, social cohesion, and legitimacy, essential conditions for sustainable development, freedom of religion and belief, equality before the law, protection of women and children, and civic space are not optional ideals. They are preconditions for peace. Peace ambassadors, especially us, who are rooted in faith and community leadership, are essential defenders of these universal goals and values. And we must promote that and do that as peace ambassadors. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, one of the most profound shifts in SDG 17 is the expansion of the multilateralism beyond states alone. Inclusive multilateralism recognizes civil society, faith-based organizations, youth and women, indigenous communities, the private sector, and academia as a co-creator of global solutions. WOLMI-ICC ambassadors exemplified this approach, connecting moral leadership, community engagement, international cooperation. The role of WOLMI-ICC peace ambassadors bridges between United Nations and local communities, between policy and practice, between faith, ethics, and global governance. Our mandate aligns directly with the SDG 17 paradigm shift: educate for peace, advocate for justice, mediate conflict, promote sustainable development, uphold human dignity. Excellencies, we must continue cooperation over division, prevention over reaction, solidarity over isolation. If we embrace the paradigm shifts, integrating space, development, peace, human rights, we can renew the promise of the United Nations for the next generation. We are stronger.
We thank His Excellency Ambassador Amankwa for that presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, ambassadors, civil societies, members of the WOLMI-ICC Peace Ambassadors, we have come to the end of the ambassadors' reviews on the 2026 SDG under review at the high-level political forum. From the views of these peace ambassadors, we are able to understand or hear from their presentation on the community level evidence and reporting, where ambassadors generated localized SDG data and community insight that enrich the high-level political discussions. Their contributions include community SDG progress report aligned with the SDG 6, 7, 9, 11, and 17 grassroots testimonies on water access, energy poverty, urban resilience, and partnership gap, case studies demonstrating faith-based and youth-led SDG innovation, and localizing monitoring data that complements the peace ambassadors' voluntary reviews. These inputs strengthen the forum's evidence base and highlight realities often absent from the usual national reporting. This ambassador's presentation was able to strengthen multi-stakeholder engagement, where ambassadors help to broaden participation in high-level political forum processes by mobilizing faith-based organizations, youth networks, community leaders, local authorities, and civil society coalitions. Their engagement ensures that the high-level political forum outcome reflects inclusive, community-driven perspective and support the principle of leaving no one behind. Advancing SDG solutions and scalable models. Ambassadors showcase practical, scalable initiatives that can inform the high-level political forum recommendation, including the watch stewardship on model of SDG 6, the solar community electrification on SDG 7, digital inclusion hubs on SDG 9, under resilience and safety campaigns on SDG 11, and of course, faith-based partnership mobilization on SDG 17. These initiatives demonstrate how local action can accelerate national, global, and local SDG progresses. We are also, from their presentation, we are able to understand the promoting peace positive development. Through the Act 915 Peace Ambassadors mandate, peace ambassadors were able to contribute to high-level political forums' emphasis on peaceful, inclusive societies by facilitating community mediations, promoting nonviolence and social cohesion, integrating peace education into SDG advocacy, strengthening trust between communities and institutions. This reinforces the forum's recognition that peace is foundational to sustainable development. And as peace ambassadors, we have great roles to play in achieving this mandate. So we now move on to the policy recommendation as the major aspect of this event. And we have no other person to call on the way forward for peace ambassadors of WOLMI-ICC Department of Northeastern Affairs. And we are calling on person of His Excellency, Dr. Devon Bannister, the Pro-Chancellor of SAICA International University, to deliver the way forward policy statement on this meeting. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Excellencies, and all of those especially invited.
Your Excellency is making a policy statement. You need to be on camera.
Sorry, I have some issues, so that won't be possible. I'm very sorry. Please forgive me for that. So the way forward to the 2030 for WOLMI outcome framework to the 2030 for WOLMI-ICC Peace Ambassadors, a pact for the future agenda. So with less than 5 years remaining until 2030, the global community faces a stark reality. Progress on the Sustainable Development Goals is insufficient, uneven, and increasingly constrained by overlapping crises. For WOLMI-ICC Peace Ambassadors, this moment demands renewed purpose, intensified engagement, and coordinated action that reflects both the urgency of the SDGs and the spiritual mandate of peace building and stewardship. So let's talk about the strategic alignment with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals when it comes to WOLMI's ICC Peace Ambassadors Program, which is aligned with the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, recognizing that sustainable peace is inseparable from social inclusion, environmental stewardships, resilient infrastructure, and global partnerships. So the program contributes particularly to the following Sustainable Development Goals. So we're looking at SDG 6, which deals with clean water and sanitation. So promoting equitable access to safe water, sanitation, and hygiene, also known as WASH, through community awareness, environmental conservation, and advocacy for sustainable water resources management. Look at SDG 7, affordable and clean energy, supporting access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy solutions by encouraging renewable energy awareness, energy efficiency, and clean energy initiatives that improve livelihoods and reduce environmental impacts. SDG 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, fostering innovation, digital inclusion, entrepreneurship, and resilient infrastructure that strengthen communities, create opportunities for youth, and promote sustainable economic development. SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, advancing inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable communities through peace building, disaster risk reduction, environmental stewardship, community resilience, cultural preservation, and participatory local governance. And lastly, SDG 17, partnerships for the goals, building strong, inclusive, and multi-stakeholder partnerships among governments, international organizations, civil society, academia, faith-based institutions, private sector, and local communities to mobilize knowledge, resources, innovation, and collective action in support of peace and sustainable development. So through these priority SDGs, the WOLMI-ICC Peace Ambassadors Program seeks to empower individuals and communities to become catalysts for peace, resilience, innovation, and sustainable development, while advancing the principle of leaving no one behind and contributing to the shared vision of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So following the way forward outlines how WOLMI-ICC Peace Ambassadors can position themselves as strategic actors in the final push towards 2030. So I will leave with you 8 points and a way forward for each point. Point number 1, align peace ambassadors with the Pact for the Future. So the Pact for the Future calls for the SDGs to be placed at the center of the UN's work and urges member states and stakeholders to adopt transformative, equitable, and coordinated approach. So the way forward for that would be to integrate the Pact's priorities into WOLMI-ICC's peace building, community engagement, and advocacy programs. Also, equip peace ambassadors to serve as local interpreters of global commitments, translating the Pact into community-level actions. Position WOLMI-ICC as a Pact-based partner contributing to the global acceleration and agenda. Point number 2, prepare for the 2027 SDG Summit, a pivotal turning point. So the 2027 SDG Summit will be the last major global checkpoint for the 2030. It will set the tone for the final acceleration phase. So the way forward for that would be to mobilize peace ambassadors to contribute evidence, community insights, and local success through stories, national and regional SDG consultations. Engage with the 2027 Global Sustainable Development Report, which is the GSDR, by aligning WOLMI-ICC programs with its scientific recommendations, and develop a WOLMI-ICC 2030 acceleration blueprint to be showcased during summit side events or stakeholder platforms. Point number 3, engage actively in the 2026 ECOSOC high-level segment. The 2026 ECOSOC high-level segment will shape the political momentum leading into the 2027 summit. The way forward for that would be 1, prepare peace ambassadors to participate in dialogues, consultations, and thematic discussions on the SDG acceleration. Also, strengthen partnerships with civil society, youth networks, and faith-based organizations to amplify WOLMI's ICC voices. Lastly, contributes to discussions on concrete actions, especially in peace building, gender equality, climate resilience, and community stewardship. Number 4, strengthen multi-level partnerships, SDG 17. The next phase requires deep collaboration, not isolated action. Again, deep collaborations, not isolated action. So the way forward for this would be build partnerships with local governments, UN agencies, regional bodies, and community organizations. Establish peace ambassadors coalitions across Northeastern regions to coordinate SDG implementation. Promote joint initiatives on conflict prevention, women's leadership, and climate peace linkage. Point number 5, accelerate community-level SDG implementation. Incremental progress is no longer enough. Peace ambassadors must drive high-impact community-anchored interventions. How? Way forward. Expand WOLMI's ICC community peace hubs as centers for SDGs education, mediation, and resilience building. Prioritize SDGs where peace ambassadors have strong influence, such as SDG 5, Women's Leadership and Protection, SDG 6, Water Stewardships and WASH Advocacy, SDG 11, Safe, Resilient Communities, SDG 16, Peace, Justice, and Strong Institutions. Use faith-based mobilization to reach populations often excluded from formal SDG processes. Point number 6, invest in capacity building and innovation. The final stretch to 2030 requires new skills, new tools, and new approaches. The way forward for that, train peace ambassadors in digital literacy, conflict analysis, climate adaptation, and community mediation. Introduce innovative approaches such as digital peace mapping, community SDG scorecards, and youth-led monitoring. Also strengthen data collection to support evidence-based advocacy and reporting. Number 7, amplify advocacy and public engagement. The SDG needs public momentum to succeed. How? Launch a WOLMI-ICC 2030 Peace and Stewardship campaign across the Northeastern regions. Use storytelling, testimonies, community narratives to humanize SDG challenges. Engage faith leaders, women's groups, and youth networks to broaden participation. And lastly, point number 8, establish a 2027 to 2030 Peace Acceleration Roadmap. The final phase must be strategic, coordinated, and measurable. How? Develop a roadmap with clear milestones for 2027, 2028, 2029, and 2030. Align the roadmap with national SDG strategies and UN acceleration frameworks. Monitor progress through annual peace ambassador reports and community consultations. So, WOLMI peace ambassadors, in closing, must step into the final phase towards the 2030 with renewed conviction, striking partnerships, and accelerated action. By aligning with processes, the Pact for the Future, the 2026 ECOSOC high-level segment, and the 2027 SDG Summit Peace Ambassadors can become catalysts of transformation, ensuring that communities are not only included in the SDGs, but empowered to shape a peaceful, sustainable future. I thank you.
We thank His Excellency for that way forward for peace ambassadors of Department of Northeastern Affairs with reference to Pact for the Future. And we have just a few minutes to go, and as the chair of this event, I wish to conclude in reference to our mandate on Act 915 as peace ambassadors from faith-based institutions. The Act 915 Act says, "He is choosing vessel unto me to bear my name before nations." And this establishes a divine identity and assignment, choosing vessels, commissioned to carry God's purpose into nations, systems, and communities. And for us at WOLMI-ICC Peace Ambassadors, this scripture becomes the spiritual foundation for our role in advancing the SDGs during the decisive final phase of 2030 agenda. The Peace Ambassador mandate is not only development, it is prophetic, stewardship, nation-bearing, and purpose-driven leadership. We also wish to understand that reviewing the SDGs of 2026 High-Level Political Forum, aligning it to Act 915, we see SDG 915 Framework Steward as an optional service and also a divine responsibility. And for us at Department of Northeastern Affairs, SDG implementation becomes an expression of obedience, service, and nation-bearing, a practical outworking of God's choosing vessels in communities. We look at SDG 16, water and sanitation, as stewardship of life and dignity, where water is a biblical symbol of cleansing, renewal, and life. Stewardship of water is therefore a sacred duty. We see SDG 7 as clean and affordable energy, which is stewardship of light, and also calls choosing vessels to bear my name, to carry light into nations. Clean energy is a modern expression of that light. SDG 9 has to do with stewardship of systems, the innovation, industry, and infrastructure, the 3 I's. And then choosing vessels are called to strengthen what is broken and build what is missing. The SDG 11 has to do with sustainable cities and communities, which states as stewardship of habitation. And SDG 9, Act 915 implies responsibility for the well-being of nations and communities. Peace ambassadors must help build safe, resilient, spiritually grounded places. We see SDG 17, partnership for goals, as stewardship of collaboration. Choosing vessels do not work alone. We had all that. And at 915 is a network mandate, a calling to influence systems and nations through partnership. Anchored in Act 915, the WOLMI-ICC Peace Ambassadors of this Department of Northeastern Affairs accelerate SDG implementation as an act of divine stewardship, carrying God's purpose into communities through water stewardship, which is SDG 6, energy justice, SDG 7, innovation, SDG 9, resilient communities, SDG 11, and transformative partnership on SDG 17. This approach transformed the SDGs from technical goals into spiritual assignments, empowering peace ambassadors to shape nations with wisdom, service, and obedience. We also need to look at investing in innovation, capacity building, and spiritual intelligence, which choosing vessels must be equipped spiritually, intellectually, and technically. So what is our way forward? We must anchor in Act 915 as peace ambassadors of the very first faith-based organization that was accredited at United Nations to step into the final phase towards the 2030 agenda as choosing vessels commissioned to bear God's purpose before nations through peace building, stewardship, and sustainable development. By aligning spiritual mandate with SDG goals, acceleration processes, peace ambassador becomes catalyst of transformation, ensuring communities are not only included in the SDGs, but empowered to shape a peaceful and sustainable future. With this, I thank you, the peace ambassadors, for your wonderful voluntary SDG reviews, and I wish to call this meeting to a close. Thank you. This meeting is therefore brought to an end.
Thank you, Dr. Kika. On behalf of the WOLMI-ICC as the Deputy Chief Governor, I want to extend our profound gratitude and thanks to you on behalf of the excellencies at WOLMI-ICC Northeastern Affairs. Your love and care have been very profound. Your teaching and lecturing is just unimaginable. We also want to take this privilege to thank our father, the Chief Ambassador, His Excellency Right Reverend Dr. Philippine, and the dear wife, for granting us the opportunity to be with WOLMI-ICC Northeastern Affairs. So on behalf of my excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we salute all of you, and of course, His Excellency Dr. Bannister, the Pro-Chancellor of SICA, We salute you all. And we do hope that we will do better as according to your guidance. And all the glory goes to our Lord and Savior Jesus the Christ. To him, all flesh shall be. God bless you, Your Excellency, for your sacrifices and time. And we look forward getting things done. Salute. Shalom.
Thank you, Excellencies. Wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
So proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Been amazing.
Thank you
Again,
very
of your
much.
Profound
contribution.
information
Thank
and
you,
teaching.
Nicole.
Yeah.
God
Amazing.
bless you.
That'll be wonderful. Very wonderful.
God
Beautiful.
bless